different things I've been struggling with in my life, then the palm leaves have come in unexpected ways with sort of new revelations that came out of nowhere. Like I was having a lot of trouble around the masculine energy, and my father and my connection has been very tenuous my entire life, and even more so recently. And then out of nowhere, I got a call that was like, oh, for some reason, we didn't start your puja that you had signed up for. And because of that, we decided we'll give you another reading. So choose which reading you will like. And then the reading of my father was what I chose. And even in the deciding that, I messaged Stefan with like, these are the ones I'm considering. And his intuition was also to do with my father, which wasn't the expected reading. Like more likely based on our conversations, I would have thought he will tell me to read the relationship one. And that is what I like, maybe my heart would have wanted, but my intuition was telling me, no, read the father one. And just through the reading of the father one, a lot has shifted in the energy between my father and I's relationship. Not on a physical level, but I've had mystical experiences relating to this masculine energy since that reading that I correlate directly with the reading. So a lot for me, the palm leaves aren't so much about this physical realm, even though it does manifest in the physical realm in many ways. But as my experience with spirituality increases and deepens, and I become much more sensitive to these other realms, the palm leaves are working so deeply on these other realms that it's undeniable. Even like the sage or the reishi who's giving the readings for the palm leaf I received anyway, and I think for most of the palm leaves from this library, Sri Agastya. One night I was like called by my intuition to go and sit under the stars. And generally there's this one star that I work with that speaks to me on a psychic level. And for some reason this night, an entirely different star was like calling to me and speaking to me, and so I started connecting with it, and it was the reason that I was like called out of my regular flow that night to go sit under the stars. And then I came to find out that this star is identified in ancient Hindu like texts or star maps as Sri Agastya, and it is in different ancient practices where they believe the souls of very like enlightened beings eventually ascend and become stars themselves. So to me, this was just an experience of unbelievability. Like, of all of the stars in the sky, I'm looking at this star, it's calling to me, it's reaching for me, and then it's the energy of this rishi who's already now connected to me deeply through the palm leaves in a different realm. So it's subtleness, it's hard to explain in words. It was the beginning of me getting into mantra practices, where now I have a daily mantra practice. And so to repeat these mantras for extended periods of time creates shifts in my energy body that are tangible, that I can feel happening. And you don't feel it, or I didn't feel it maybe like after the first one or the second one, but through time repeating them, it's like a technology that is rewiring maybe your thought patterns or definitely your energetic field, because they're frequencies, and also they're frequencies that many beings have been connecting to with the same intention and understanding of calling this divine energy through these mantras for literally thousands of years. And there's just powerful transformation that happens around this. And then so to have the trust that the remedies that I'm being given are specifically for me for a reason, didn't come so naturally, but just came through this feeling of upliftment and this feeling of lightness that came after repeating them. And even later through meditation practices, after my remedies were over, but then finding myself drawn back to a certain mantra from the remedy for one reason or another, and then having direct experience with that divine energy after I had come to like a more deep connection with spirituality in general, showed me the evolution of the mantra and the evolution of me connecting with that energy, like more availability of myself. So I can only believe that that same energy was connecting with me through the whole time I was using them, but maybe my conscious level of awareness wasn't able to perceive it at the depth that later I became able to. First one, I did my general chapter, and included in my general chapter was also my past lives and karma clearing remedies. And then I came back about almost exactly a year later and did the chapter that was my father and my spiritual path. So my general chapter was also very focused on my spiritual path. So a lot of the information in my spiritual life chapter was very synchronistic with the prior chapter, and a lot of repeating the information but with more specificity as to timelines. And then also it was addressing specific things about my father and what I needed to, like, things I needed to do in our relationship that is very difficult because we don't have a relationship. And so the translator actually advised me that if I can't make these kind of connections with my actual father, to make them with another masculine elder figure who can represent my father, and that this will work on a more karmic level between me and my father. And I've been finding that to be true. So even though I did only my general chapter and my chapter of my father and my spiritual path, I also was present for my mother's reading, which was done some months after my reading, and with different translator, I think the same priest though. And the information, there was not a single dysynchronicity between the information that had been given to me about my life, as well as in the general chapter, it talked about my brother and it talked about my mother. And then to have her chapter read and have it say, but several months later, so have the timing still correct, but progressed for my brother, and super accurate in the sense of both of them saying, the first one saying certain things about my brother, and then even those things getting advanced in an accurate way, such as like him having a baby in a particular time period which manifested, and him also being out of work, and then when he would be in work, and then him being in work. So all of these things were like lightly touched on in mine as my brother, and more deeply touched on in my mother's as her son. But synchronistic between all of these. And then the same thing happened again in my 1 year later reading with my father, was these same synchronicity, or not, I don't want to say synchronicities, but these same predictions progressed accurately, and then with more explanation or more depth given to them than in the general chapter. So to me, this also gained my confidence in the entire process and in the readings, because it would be a lot of work to try and like keep track of all of this information across so many people who are having these readings. I don't think it would be very possible. And I have a skeptical mind just as a habit. So these are all things that I don't necessarily like mean to think about, but they just come through. And at least if they're coming through in a helpful way of reassurance, that can be nice. We're in a very special time on the planet right now where it's very important, the lighter we can make the planet, and we make it lighter through clearing our karma, through doing our spiritual work, for this planet to survive, for humanity to survive. I think all of these things are correlated to our karma, to our personal karma. And so it's a gift to be able to practice the remedies and become more aligned with the path of your highest being. And just the fact of being interested to do the reading is in itself the confirmation to do the reading. I say listen to your heart. If your heart is calling you to do it, even if your mind is having these skepticisms, to listen to your heart. And if your heart truly says no, then also that's your answer.